Okay, hi everybody. My name is Roberto Alvarez. We have changed, Paul, Kalin, and I. You may have not recognized ourselves. We decided to make this the title, no ties for the session, right? We're here to talk advanced manufacturing, but we are actually expanding the conversation and talking about how new technologies, AI, robotics, advanced materials, are reshaping the business environment from the manufacturing domain to construction to health services. I have an amazing group of leaders here today, and I really wanted to get it started maybe giving like 30, 40 seconds each one of you to tell what is that your organization does. Gary.
Yeah, I'm from Carnegie Mellon University, right just a few half mile down the road. And at the Manufacturing Futures Institute at Carnegie Mellon, my job is to herd cats. It's to get everyone together at the university.
Robot cats.
Robo-cats, AI cats, engineering cats, all of the faculty, staff, and students that get them excited and interested about manufacturing as a application for all the great stuff they do.
Excited about manufacturing. Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Gelati. I'm the president and COO of a company called Envoke Incorporated, and we are a provider of speech recognition and workflow optimization technology, heavily utilizing AI and specializing in in-home health, located in Boulder, Colorado. I'm also University of Pitt grad and a trustee.
Paul.
Good afternoon, everyone. Paul Madden from the Centre for Competitiveness based at Belfast in Northern Ireland. Our organisation was one of the very first members of the GFCC network way back when it was first established. And in some respects, we provide the same sort of services and networking capability and opportunities that the GFCC does, but we do it on the island of Ireland.
And you do a lot with manufacturing itself, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
do. Yes, yeah, I can come on to that later.
Yeah. Kalin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kalin Marinov, coming from Bulgaria. GBS is my company. It's one of the largest construction and engineering companies in the region of Southeastern Europe. Our company is based in Bulgaria and has its operations there. But through the years, we had projects on 3 continents, actually, in North Africa, in Middle East. And we are doing all kind of construction works, starting from civil infrastructure, let's say nuclear power plants. Now we are actually in a process of constructing 2 new nuclear reactors in Bulgaria, to hydropower, stadiums, sports houses, everything.
Okay, so we will not be in short supply of power here. Rory.
Hello, I'm Rory Cooper. I'm a professor here at the University of Pittsburgh, and I direct the Human Engineering Research Laboratories. And what we do is we invent, prototype, and in some cases manufacture technologies for people with disabilities. Among them are veterans with disabilities.
Thank you so much.
And our technologies are primarily assistive technologies, but we encompass wheelchairs, prosthetics, robotics, human-machine interfaces.
As you can see, we have a wide range of industry verticals and a lot of expertise in this conversation. And not sure if you had a chance to see, this is yours, Gary, it's my gift for the panelists. We launched yesterday our GFCC 2025 call to action. And one of the recommendations that we have here, number 4, is rebuild manufacturing capacity to boost resilience and drive innovation. And I want to start with you, talking how do you see technology reshaping the manufacturing landscape? You are at the forefront of that. You worked with advanced materials, robotics, AI, the combination of all of that. What can we expect?
Yeah, well, you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of a lot of the leading technologies. I think our tagline in our institute from 2016 onwards been the digitalization of manufacturing. And it's so much more true today because of this confluence, I think, and we're going to see more of this, of AI, what what we're calling digital twin, and there's a lot of discussion about what that means. And then virtualization, the idea of augmented reality, extended reality, and the combination of those affecting manufacturing and efficiencies. But you're right, robotics is a huge part of this. That ties to automation but also interacting with the workers and being physical assistants, because AI gives you the virtual assistant, you also need in manufacturing the physical assistant.
So listening to you, I was thinking, what is the main opportunity here? Is to increase efficiency and lower costs in manufacturing, or it is an opportunity to create more value and to innovate using this new set of technologies?
I think it depends on your perspective. I think from business, the opportunity is to make more profit.
Okay.
and that a lot of the things you talked about lead to that.
Okay.
But there may be different pathways to make that happen. I think from the university's point of view, our research is to be a feeder up the scale to be able to then feed it to organizations that de-risk technologies, get them out the door. So we're kind of a few years, even 5 years or so, advanced from what you might see in companies, anytime soon.
So what you do is a lot about accelerating translation, and is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, Paul, I want to turn to you because we had a conversation, including a call to prepare this panel. And one of the things that was emerged was how we could democratize the access to these technologies, right? While big corporations have the resources sometimes to make major capital expenditure investments, SMEs don't. And if we think even about the different realities in the GFCC, different countries, how can we, and I know this democratization is a central part of the work that you do. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, Roberto, that's actually quite an interesting sort of concept, democratization of technology and making it available to manufacturing companies that maybe don't have pockets that are as deep as some of the larger corporates. And I think that one way that we've addressed this in our region is with the university. And this is really one of the things I've learned from this event over the last couple of days is the importance of collaboration between stakeholders from different sectors. And the university is leading a major initiative on establishing a new Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Centre. And the funding for this has come from national government, regional government, local government, and the private sector. But the objective there is to demonstrate Industry 4.0 technologies generally, but to ensure that there is outreach to the smaller manufacturing companies that feel as though they need perhaps educating about what's available to them to help them in their particular manufacturing environments. And a lot of it would be driven by the need to reduce costs and to make their processes more efficient rather than introducing something like artificial intelligence straight away. And what that centre is doing is it's bridging between the technology providers and the academic experts on one hand, the community that needs this technology on the other, and there's an initiative that's also been led by one of the other universities in our region, which has utilised the, I guess, the need to raise awareness of AI and what it can bring to companies, because quite often, small companies in particular, they get bombarded by a lot of hype about what AI is, what it might do, are they going to get left behind? And I thought the comment this morning by one of the panelists was very apt. It's that AI won't replace the jobs, but companies that don't utilise AI will replace those that companies that do utilize AI will replace those that don't. And this is a challenge for small companies, and that's what we're trying to address and help people understand what it can mean for their organizations to embrace this new technology. And that brings a whole series of other challenges around educating the workforce and bringing your people with you as you roll out new technology.
So what you do at the center with your partners like Queen's University of Belfast and others is to create an environment in which companies can be educated, can try these technologies, can understand what it takes to deploy those technologies, right?
Exactly. It's like offering a service to small companies in particular. Try before you buy, you know, to have a safe environment in which they can experiment with new technology, and if it fails, it's fine, but it means that if it doesn't fail, if it looks like it'll solve their particular problem, they then have more confidence in going ahead and making a capital investment to acquire the equipment in the first place. They know they'll have made the right decision.
Okay. I want to leave a question here on the clipboard for both of you, Gary and Paul, for later. That's how do you fund that translation effort? What's the type of mechanism? How is that done in practice? But Colleen, could you tell us about construction and how do you see from robotics, artificial intelligence, changing the construction environment where you are operating?
Yeah, I would say in the recent years there is, especially operating in Europe, it's a huge topic, the environmental policies and pushing for greening the sector. This is something that is attracting a lot of investments in the recent years. Energy efficiency in the processes, also embedding new materials which could provide higher energy efficiency of the buildings that we are building, for example. Also another topic which is addressed by the research work for the technologies for the sector, it's the tackling with the enormous quantity of construction and demolition waste. It is a topic that is under the scope of many research organizations in Europe, and we are involved also in several projects. How to return the construction materials, how to recycle them, how to return them into the process. It's also a matter of some legislative incentives that to be introduced, for example, for the public projects, to require a higher percentage of recycled materials to be involved in the construction process, which...
And by the way, you guys, so we have a monthly call with our GFCC members, and we always have someone presenting a case. And I remember you presenting about building recycling in Europe, right? But how are these new technologies, AI or robotics or whatever, helping in those things?
Yeah, it's a huge thing. Usually when we are thinking for artificial intelligence, there is this scare that it could take our jobs. But in the construction sector, we have this, at least in our geography, we have this scares of people working the manual work. Doing the manual work. So it's not, we have a lot of investments, also artificial intelligence is involved and new technologies to substitute the manual labor, but it's not because we want and we think that it would be done in a better way, but it's because we're just missing the willingness and the people that are working this manual work. I mean the manual work that we are seeing all around us when it is related to a construction.
So you're using that to, let's say, to fill the gap that you see in the workforce in some way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Rory, you are a major inventor, a major innovator. You are a creator. You conceptualize and you build new things, right? How is AI or how are other technologies helping you in doing that?
Well, AI is helping two things. It's helping in generative AI can help us design new ideas or take new concepts and bring them into basically more of the conceptual drawings. We haven't got to AI hasn't got to the point where you can actually do decent CAD models and create things that way. But I think what's really exciting is that in prosthetics, for example, you can create entirely different shapes. It's kind of an interesting feed between AI and some of the advanced manufacturing tools like additive manufacturing, which allows you to make complex shapes that are otherwise difficult to make. And some of the really, maybe a little bit older technologies, but like metal laser cutting and also CNC bending, or what we call press brakes, now allow us to create designs that were otherwise not possible, because you can come up with a 3D shape, you use AI to sort of flatten that shape, for example, for a kirigami-inspired engineering, cut it on a laser, bend it on a 3D break, and then you don't need jigs because it's by definition kirigami is self-jigging, but you're now using engineering materials, create a whole wide range of different designs. The same thing is true with 3D, metal 3D printing or combinations of metal and plastic 3D printing. We're seeing this, for example, in the Paralympics. We're in Paris last year. People 3D printing prosthetic legs for cycling or just for one sporting event, for example, for a running leg or something like that. Because in our field, things need to be fitted to the individual, right? It's an extension of the body. And so the advanced manufacturing techniques to get away from sort of a few sizes fits all to actually one size fits you. And that's, and also with custom interface devices, for example, each individual, especially when you have a disability, needs very customized interfaces. So I think it's pretty exciting. And on the other side, it's making engineering more accessible for people with disabilities because it can help do image recognition and explain, do what we call alt text or alternative text descriptions. It can help with code writing and code debugging, so which speeds things if you're visually impaired. I'm sure all of you have used text to speech to text and text to speech, which also makes all of science much more accessible. So I'm really excited on many levels, right? Some of these combinations of using AI as a tool, to example, for how to nest parts, how to optimize cutting patterns so you don't burn things or warp pieces of metal as you cut them, and then as well as making it possible to expand the number of people who can participate in science and engineering.
Yeah, you just brought another perspective to democratization. That is democratizing the access from the user perspective, right? Not just democratizing the access of technologies to the companies that are deploying those technologies, but creating benefits that users could have better, easier access to the solutions that they need. Are you using AI tools in the design loop? AI agents, generative design, anything that you are doing that you would like to share?
Yeah, certainly. We even are using AIs, for that matter, to generate images for storyboarding, right, to try to convey a story to an individual. So we make sure that we capture their thoughts, their ideas, then storyboard them. That's like making sort of a graphical version or like a graphic novel or a comic book, for example, to explain what we're doing. But we're also using it, for example, once you have a 3D shape, how to flatten that 3D shape, how to nest that to use the minimum amount of material, then how to use the laser cutting pattern, then also how to use the 3D bending to reconstruct it into a 3D shape, and how to optimize that, and how to minimize the tools required. So for example, so you could do some of that manufacturing in a country like the United States or some of the European countries, but the assembly then could be done in countries where they might not have access to the high-tech materials, high-tech tools, but they can use other tools then to assemble things. So I think it's got a lot of, there's a lot of potential. The other thing that's really kind of cool about it is also gathering data from individuals, like customer discovery, where you can reach out to customers, you do a lot of interviews, and then you can use AI to compile that information on what are the salient thoughts, what are the patterns that come out of that would be tremendously labor intensive doing that without the assistance of some of the AI tools.
Debbie, I wanted to shift the conversation and expand it. This conference has a lot to do about AI, technology, and health. And these technologies are reshaping business processes in general with a major impact on the health environment and health services. You are at the forefront of that, right? So what have you learned about that? And maybe that you could share with people about the potential of AI in health.
Yeah, thanks. That's a pretty interesting question applied to a lot of different subspecialties in healthcare. But let me give you a little bit of context. Earlier today, we heard about the great use of technology in some of the large health systems for acute care by the doctors and giving them more pajama time, as it were. The industry that my company specializes in is in America known as in-home health. And this is a low-margin business. Operators of agencies that deliver this care, by the way, it's the fastest growing segment in healthcare, are strapped financially and subject to very, very tight operating margins. So investing in new technology and new shiny toys is a very hard decision for them to make when they have a lot of other pressures for investment. Having said that, being able to demonstrate a credible ROI that has two main components. One would be an improvement in quality of care, meaning that applying the use of AI, you're able to bring a higher degree of accuracy to the clinical documentation and a more timely document that can be utilized in America, again, with the payer system to help expedite time to revenue. In this particular segment, there are a lot of upstart AI companies that have been popping up over the last several years. And the typical modus operandi of these organizations is to wrapper ChatGPT or a similar tool and hope that the UI around a specific workflow is going to be enough. And what we learned at our company, we started 11 years ago or more with dictation. And it isn't very sexy, but it serves a purpose, right? You have the clinician capture their narrative. Expand that to an ambient experience where you capture the conversation and you're able to mine the relative and relevant data elements that can be used to substantiate payment reimbursement claims, and you take workflow to a whole new level. And adopting this type of technology is intimidating for many agencies because you don't have a highly educated workforce. In many cases, there's rampant turnover, and people will go across the street for 10 cents more an hour. So you have to be creative in, A, making their workflow easier so they too can enjoy the pajama time with their family, but also that you can make the workflow more efficient, allow them to see more patients. They're already overloaded, but at least they're not spending hours at home. So what we've learned, especially from the experiences of watching some of the upstart companies, is that you really need the workflow at the core. And having access to the narrative, you heard about AI data sets, this is going to be hugely important. And it is harder for AI emerging companies to jump in and be able to manage that. So one of the things that we've learned as well is that specialized language models, taking the concept of LLMs and really making it shine around the specific token and focused workflows is definitely an advantage, and one that, you know, we will continue to see investment in, not only ourselves, but I'm sure other companies. So I think in sum, for this particular industry, this is an underserved community of providers that happen to be the most important providers in the next generation of healthcare. So how do we make their lives easier and help the operators operate more effectively with higher quality of care?
You just highlighted that the bottleneck, it's not really about the technology itself, it's about people, right? How to prepare them, how to create the systems that those things can be, can gain momentum, right? You were a senior executive in other companies like Microsoft and others. What is your recommendation to accelerate the deployment of new technologies?
Great question. I've worked in several different industries, including retail, restaurant, consumer packaged goods, high tech, and now healthcare. And I would say the common thread is the customer. You have to look at it from the lens of the consumer of the technology and design around that rather than letting the technology lead. And with AI, we have tremendous opportunity. You know, there are an infinite number of use cases that can be modeled and expedited through the use of AI and ambient technology and mining data and all that good stuff. But you also need to have subject knowledge in each of these domains on staff to help with the inferences of the data once it's captured. And again, that's a lesson learned no matter what industry you're in. You need people who understand the business and understand the customer to help make that real.
Paul, I saw that you want to make a point.
No, I was just wanted to pick up on the point that Debbie mentioned about the importance of workflow. Our view of the world, particularly when we're dealing with small companies, is AI, or indeed any digital technology, there isn't really any point in trying to introduce that into an environment where your processes are inefficient today. And our recommendation would be to make sure that you adopt lean manufacturing principles if it's a manufacturing company before you invest in and deploy any technology, never mind AI.
That's a fundamental point because, and I think it relates to, for sure, what I've said about people come first, but management understanding strategy, capacity to understand those systems. Otherwise, you'll be deploying capital to ossify in some way inefficiency, right? Ready.
I was going to add that, in healthcare, one of the things I think is really exciting is point of care manufacturing. Mm-hmm. So that way you can actually make a device for an individual or a healthcare provider within that clinical setting. So it's really about not getting to know your customer, but that customer is a person with a particular need. Where so you could have, now there are more and more healthcare systems where they have engineers embedded in the hospitals to work with healthcare providers to come up with individual tools to solve a particular problem. And I think that's an exciting development for the healthcare industry.
And so what you're saying, another way, the way I read it is that this is also enabling decentralization of manufacturing related to health, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly, right? So it could be hospital or hospital systems or some both, right? So you have a certain capacity at the hospital or clinic level. For example, in occupational physical therapy, that's pretty common. But then you might have more complex manufacturing capability at a hospital system level where you can make medical instruments or surgical instruments as well, which then actually provides better care, faster turnover of care than we'd see now. And also you don't have the problem of orphan products, right? So somebody's not going to tool up to make something that's got only a few hundred units, for example, or maybe 1 unit or 10 units, but it has a tremendous impact on both the healthcare system or the provider or the patient that's being served.
Paul and Gary, I want to start with you, Gary. I just want to grab that question that I left on the clipboard here. How do you create and fund these translational institutes, organizations like yours, to help industry, and especially SMEs? How do you do that, and where's the money coming from for this type of thing?
Sure. Well, I mean, the short answer to your question is public-private partnerships and a lot of working with the federal government to help fund it, also from foundations, and then as you build that up, you can get perhaps build that into a business where small companies will be able to pay for the services, although that's very difficult to get to that point. I just wanted to make a point about what Debbie was saying about listening to your customer too, that this is really true throughout the journey from discovery that you'd have in a university all the way through de-risking and onward. And for us, a big thing that we want from everyone we talk to is, what is your pain point? What's your problem that we can then bring back to the faculty to think about? Because the faculty have hammers and we're looking for nails, right? But the nails, the analogy is, what are those problems? That goes through the journey through de-risking, as Paul was talking about, where reaching out, whether it's to small, medium businesses or even large businesses. We have the equivalent here in Pittsburgh, the Advanced Robotics for Manufacturing Institute, doing de-risking for robotics for manufacturing. Mm-hmm. Same thing, the small, medium companies come and incentivized partly because federal government money, again, public-private partnership, helping to subsidize that. They come with their problem, whether that be a small company that has to do metal grinding and they're having difficulties with that. They want to roboticize it, to handling parts to doing machine tending.
Paul.
In terms of where the funding might come from to support that translation or outreach, I guess a good example from our region would be recently academics at both universities and government got together to create a program called the Artificial Intelligence Collaboration Centre. Now this is in itself a not-for-profit organisation, but it has received a 5-year program of funding to effectively roll out awareness raising of what AI
Is that the UK government?
UK and regional government,
Yep.
yeah. And one of the interesting aspects of that program is something they call the Transformer program. And this is a segment of the program whereby a company could come along and say, look, I have this challenge or this issue. Is there an AI solution that might help me? And they can get 20 days free consulting support to put together a proof of concept document. The Collaboration Centre will identify maybe one or more AI tool solutions that might address the problem, and then they're left to their own devices to go off and decide how they fund that. But that initial seed funding is to basically matchmake between those who have a problem on one hand and feel AI might be a solution, and those who can then assist or facilitate, resourcing that. Yeah.
As Gary said, public-private partnerships in some way, but also building a business model around the thing to be sustainable. I want to have a final round here. I'll leave the question because before that I'll go to you, Colleen. And my final question is, what is the one thing that you have learned throughout your careers in terms of pushing technologies into a broader user base, right? Really have an impact that you learn along the way that you want to share? And or what are the connections with other people and organizations that you would think about that would come to your mind? But before that, Colleen, back to your experience. Your company is very forward-looking. We were talking yesterday about you built a subsidiary in the United States with a focus on small nuclear reactors. Right? So how do you see your technology strategy going forward? And how do you strategize that in your corporation to bring other things?
Yep.
And we have just, let's try to be very quick here.
Yeah, because just a brief confession. In general, the construction industry, at least in my mind, is a bit more conservative. So it's a bit hard to engage with new solutions, new technologies, AI as well. But we are trying to be like to have a benchmark in this perspective. So in many occasions, because Bulgaria is a small country and working on such important projects, it's even the company that is pushing the public authorities to engage with different technology suppliers or to for certain projects which are afterwards funded by the government.
Rory, starting with you, what is something that you learned that maybe even could have surprised you, but everybody should know about?
I think the two things, I think we've echoed it several times, listening to your customers, getting connected with consumer organizations and consumer groups is really important. And then look at other industries and what are they doing and how do you integrate them into new design technologies, new manufacturing technologies. You can think of AI as that as well from where I come from, or actually all of us are of an age where AI was so basically simple neural networks, right? And now it's grown to be large language models, and now we're talking about design models. So that's the other thing. Be connect what's going on in research, what's going on in other fields, and learn how to integrate them.
Colleen.
Yeah, I would totally agree on the customer's perspective, because this is the channel that you are learning the new things, what is desired by the market. So definitely the customers.
Paul.
I'm number 3. I agree with that as well. Third person to agree that it's 100%. The customer, the end user. Listen to the end user. What is their problem? What is their issue? Before you try to configure a solution for them.
Gary.
I would pile on here and say the technology itself is never the solution. It's being able to solve the pain point that brought you into investing in that technology.
Gary?
Yeah, I'd agree with all these things we've talked about. I guess a recent thing that I've been learning and also discussing with people is that AI is great as a tool to understand things, to speed up our lives, but it is still a disconnect to the physical world. And for manufacturing, it's all about working, about making things, about physical things. So anyone thinking that AI is going to directly impact the manufacturing facility in a physical way with equipment is going to be a bit disappointed in that there's a lot of research that has to happen yet. It will happen. It's just not, in 6 months, you're not going to find ChatGPT 10.0, operating your dishwasher.
Rory, you said listening, and listening to all of you, there are just three things. It started with Debbie. Technology is not the solution itself. And Paul mentioned this very important concept. I come from a completely different background. Overall equipment efficiency in the part of the world where I come from is lower than you have here in other parts of the world. And cost of capital is even higher. So efficiency is chief, and having this understanding and thinking manufacturing or business process assistance before bringing technology, I think, as you said, is essential, Paul. And the third thing is, at the end, it's about people. Back to our call to action, our fourth recommendation, it's about manufacturing. But if you remember yesterday, I mentioned to you that we had a group exercise with GFCC leaders. And from the 10 recommendations, there was one that was prioritized. Unlock human potential by building talent at scale. Thank you so much for putting time into this and sharing a bit about your insight and talent. Thank you all for this.